It takes a lot of ingredients to fix or build a car, like cooking, but without the frozen dinner easy way out. eBay Motors has 122 million parts. It's always the right fitment, so you can follow any recipe to a T. Whether it's a vintage Italian coupe that's classic like Grandma's meatballs or a German luxury car that's as complicated as Oma's rouladen, to cook up something great in the garage, use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.
Hey everyone, this is the Almost World Podcast. Bringing to you mind-blowing interviews with guests from all over the world. So settle down, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you like the podcast, please support Elmo's World Podcast on Patreon. Your support is what helps the podcast improve more and more. 3. Okay. Welcome to the Elmo Adore Difference. This is your host, Elmo Adore Jr. And it's amazing to have the first episode where we have 2 guests. One is a guest we've had before. She is anonymous, and she's Eliza Reaba. But the one guest we have right now is she has a podcast. Her name is Mixie Plum. She has a family and co-partnering as a parents to their children with her ex-husband, and she is a strong supporter and an ally of the LGBTQIA. She currently lives in Pennsylvania, but is a true-born New Yorker. So let's jump into it. I want to say, ask a question, introduce yourself, and then answer the question. Do you think that sexuality is something that is genetic, that people are born that way? What do you think? Let's start with Mixie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll wait till you say it from now on. Absolutely. You are born that way. If you are born as one gender and you feel another gender, that is totally your right to change that gender. I did personally kind of struggle when I was a kid trying to figure out, because I joke and say that I'm cocksexual. I really do love guys. I am cis hetero. And cisgendered means I am correctly gendered, or I hate saying correctly, or just gendered, my preferred gender. You know, I enjoy being a girl. And I enjoy dudes very much, but there was a time where I did, get into, things with women just to see, just naturally to see if I might be, bisexual. I don't think I am. I think women are gorgeous and I like looking at them. And I really, the part of my podcast, Lady Mouth, is because what I think about it is with women is I want to protect them. Being a woman, I want to be that emotional support and say, hey, I'm your sister and I'm here. And women shouldn't be at war with each other. I'm not trying to make this all about women. I'm just saying, but I think my attraction for women stems from wanting to protect them and their rights. And I'm not trying to talk about women as if I am not one, but actually, personally, I feel very, with myself, I feel like I have a good balance of feminine and masculine energy. I am girl, yes, but I think, gender is just not something we should take too hard into account as our identity. I mean, obviously, I'm messing that up, aren't I?
Okay.
Sorry.
Eliza, do you have anything to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, you cut me off when you want.
All right. I do have some questions, and I want to begin with defining what sex and gender is, coming from a Western perspective, or at least your perspective. Is that okay?
Yes, of course, Eliza. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I do want to ask, so how do you define sex and gender? Is there a difference, or how do we actually try to look at them out from the outside and the inside of a person, let's say?
I take people's gender into an account. I will always respect someone's chosen gender, if whatever they choose to go by. I'm sorry, I'm a little unprepared. Can you ask me one more time?
All right, it's okay. I really do appreciate that you've actually extended the conversation, which made me want to go back to the definitions of what is the difference between the word sex and the word gender, if you may.
Okay, well, I was
Okay.
born in the late 70s, and
Mm-hmm.
we used to say sex instead of gender back then.
All right.
Like I remember in the
All right.
80s, yeah, on questionnaires, it would say, "What sex are you?" And that would be M or F, you know?
Oh yeah, the two sexes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sex and gender could be easily written off as scientific not written off, but it's scientific classification when it comes
Mm-hmm.
down to it. You know, all the words, not to go into etymology, but the words stem from Latin words and medical words, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it all starts with science, why there are classifications on things such as gender. You may be born a gender. I don't know what the difference between sex and gender is. I just know we evolved from using the word sex to mean gender to using gender to mean gender.
All
You
right.
know, no one says, "What sex are you?" anymore.
Of course. But I'm
So,
actually getting these kinds of impressions that sex is more of what's underneath your pants, basically. But then gender is something that you choose for yourself. Or
okay. Oh, so
and
your sex would be your basic scientific classification. Like I have a
yes, yes,
vagina, so my
yeah.
sex is female. Okay, I get it. And
But
gender is what
mm-hmm,
you choose for yourself. And I
mm-hmm,
think it's good to always question everything about yourself, because how else would you learn about yourself? That's why I question my
that's true.
sexuality, you
Until
know?
now. Until now.
Yeah, no, I'm all about nerdy dudes with glasses. Like my boyfriend right now, he's a nerd with glasses. Like I I had a
It's
crush on
okay. Good
Green
to know.
C3PO when I was a kid. I've always gone
Yeah.
for ultra smart dudes with glasses. I don't know why. And I don't give a shit what color you are, you know.
Mm-hmm. Not that kind of glasses.
Oh, eyeglasses. Sorry. Not drinking.
Okay,
But
continue.
I have grown up with lots of trans people since I
Mm-hmm.
was a kid. The third person I ever kissed was a person that became into their transgender, you know, their gender identity in their later teens. We
Mm-hmm.
kissed in our early
Mm-hmm.
teens before that person discovered they were a woman, you know.
Oh,
And
okay.
so and in New York, I mean, living right next to the city, I grew up with everything. Like
Yeah.
I've never not had gay LGBTQIA friends or teachers or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whomever or any color. I grew up next to Queens. I was born in Queens. Queens is now the most ethnically diverse place in the world,
Oh,
which
okay.
as a Queens native, I am very proud of. Like I am mixed race myself.
All right.
Yeah, I'm half Spanish and half Polish.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. But then you were born in New York, so that means
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. So I grew up, New Yorkers were in a bubble because we have everything. We're used
that's
to
true.
everything. we have all the genders, we have all the sexualities, we have all the races, we have all the religions. So when you go out of New York, it's like that bubble just burst, and like there are people who aren't tolerant of these things, and it's like, why the fuck wouldn't you be tolerant of this? You know?
So can I ask, how do you actually approach these kinds of people who come out as rude or at least uneducated?
Well, I try to have open discourse without letting people feel I'm judging them at all. I question people, like, why do you feel this way? You know? Yeah, and people are more likely to talk when you question them. I'm not going to attack every I mean, I don't personally have many experiences where people come up to me and, you know, attack these things, such as the LGBTQIA. I have had encounters. I was at a club once, and my friend and I were looking at these two adorable gay guys dancing. They were wearing Converse. They were just so adorable and lively. And then this guy went up to them in the middle of the dance floor and was poking them and verbally abusing them. And I don't even remember a damn thing. All I remember is going right up into his face and my friend pulling my dress back and sitting down on the floor. So I couldn't do anything to this man. I've never thrown a punch in my life. But the one moment I noticed gay bashing in public, I went right the fuck over there and I stood in his face until the bouncers kicked him out of the club. And then they played George Michael's Freedom, and me and the two gay guys danced, and it was great. But yeah, when instances arise of injustice with LGBT or any kind of group, that I will be, well, you know, groups within minorities and, you know, sexualities and religions, any kind of, oh, sure.
Yeah. I want to say something. I have a confession. To be honest, and full disclosure, I grew up in a Christian community, and I have, with shame of myself, I grew up homophobic.
You're not homophobic now, are you, Elmo?
No, I'm not. I used to be.
Then there's no reason to shame. Wait, let me just say, there's no reason to shame yourself. You grew out of it, you evolved, and that's great.
Yeah, but I guess that the acts that I have done in the past, for example, I would back in 8th grade, I would constantly remind my classmates who were being influenced by other classmates that they were being supported for coming out, for acting like gay or queer. It disturbed me because I believe that essentially being a Christian, that God created man and woman, and it's a distortion of God's plan for human beings. But it's not that I hated them, but that I didn't want them to do it out of my own concern for their soul. And that's something that resonates among most Christian organizations and institutions, even Islamic and other religious organizations. Yeah, but the thing that stopped me from, or changed me, is the fact that, for example, if I was a Christian, why would I treat other people differently just because of something I would quote unquote say is a sin? For me, as a Christian, I am a sinner. Every person in the church is a sinner. Why should I treat homosexuals differently, or where their sin is much graver? And so, but then it started from a more spiritual epiphany and transitioning to a more secular belief, wherein where the LGBT community are people. They are human beings. They can feel. They know themselves, and they have dignity, and I respect that dignity. And they have the autonomy to choose their own sexuality or gender whatsoever. I have no control over that. And being a person coming from a religion that emphasizes love, hope, acceptance of other people, and especially seeing the example that Jesus Christ has. For example, he destroyed cultural norms back in Israel in his days by hanging out with adulterers, people that would be ostracized by society. And so, but right now, I fully support anyone who feels that it's their own right to choose who they are or who they want to be. That's it. Is that
Now,
okay?
may I ask, Elmo, are you still religious?
Well, I still go to church, but I sort of cherry pick the verses that make sense to me and understand it in a more deeply anthropological and psychological level, which is what
Like
we
a
would
more
call,
personal level for
yeah,
yourself, correct?
yeah. And
I think
so,
that's great.
mm-hmm. But and one last thing is that um I think that no matter what your religion is or what or church affiliation you grew up in, either you're Muslim or Jew or Christian or whatever, or you're an atheist, I think that each human being can decide or become or strand or what you call bloom differently in their own belief system. That we just have different beliefs. We're individuals and we are unique. That's it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Whether we're religious or not. I actually do have some Christian stories I can share. One real quick, which I think is fun and ironic. Well, first I'll share a sadder one. One of my gay best friends, he came out to his church and they excised him. So he started going to his boyfriend's church, who happily accept him. And I hate hearing stuff like that. Like, you're right. Why would a religion who base themselves on everyone being a sinner be, not treat someone as a human like they're supposedly their leaders' teachings teach them? And obviously, you could tell now that I am not an organized religion. I am not a theist. I believe in all the written religious spiritual texts as mythology only. Like if you say Greek mythology, a long time ago, Greeks thought that was religion and their gods were really there. So I say Christian mythology too, because it pisses off Christians. Sorry. Um, but I was raised Jewish, Reformed, Old Testament. So I grew up with a lot of Bible stories. We didn't believe in hell. We're not raised that way. There was no sinning. We just learned about being kind to people. And so my other story, which I think is fun and ironic, is in high school, I had a friend who was an uber born again Christian. And he's like, I want to save you. And he would try to molest me in school in the hopes of saving me with Christianity and his tongue. I don't get it. So anyway, and I stopped hanging out with him. So it is a year after high school. I'm working at Tower Records after I left college. I'm at community college. And he comes in, and it's been like almost 2 years, year and a half since I've seen him. I'm like, hey, what's up? How are you? And we were chatting, and I noticed he was speaking more flamboyantly. And I'm like, so are you still a born again Christian? He goes, oh no, honey, I'm gay and I love to suck dick. That was one of my favorite stories ever, because he is also someone who was obsessed with saving people in the Christian way. And then he realized in his late teens that he was actually a gay man. And he lives his life much happier now. You know?
Good for him. But I do want to ask, is it possible to be gay and Christian at the same time?
Yes, totally. Completely. My best friend who I said got excised from his church, he goes with his boyfriend to his boyfriend's church now.
The
And
Christian church. His boyfriend's
yes,
Christian church. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Christians are slowly starting, I know there's Christian communities out there that have no problem with the LGBTQIA. There's a church
Mm-hmm.
around the corner from me called Universal Christ Church, and they have a pride flag right outside of it. There's
Mm-hmm.
Universalist churches. I'm trying to make
Mm-hmm.
my town more gay, to be honest. I have a pride flag in my window that's always there.
Mm-hmm.
And now that there's a church with a pride flag, I really want to be like, all right, now let's do other stuff, like have some pride events,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually going to be volunteering with the mayor of my town to make it more gay.
I think that's a good advocacy to make things more gay as possible. But then
Exactly. I
it
would love
also.
to run a gay support youth group, an LGBTQIA. I mean, I would love to be trans youth support. It
Mm-hmm.
actually, I have stickers on my car, like proud ally, proudly
Mm-hmm.
support trans youth, and then I even have Black Trans Lives Matters,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Mm-hmm.
made, my statements about me. Like, yeah,
Of course, of course. It's
yes,
gonna reflect on how you look at life, basically. And from what
yeah.
I'm getting, you're more of the humane type of person. I don't think you really want to confine on like some rules and regulations, just like religion or this kind of movement.
Gosh,
And
no, I believe it's personal ethics and not
mhm,
universal morals.
Also, I want to say something. One last thing. Yeah, one last thing. I have to put a line between um teenagers deciding their own sexuality, because, for example, sometimes it's a phase, sometimes it's not. It's just who they really are. And so the danger with teenagers is that they are full of hormones or emotional baggages by which every teenager would face, and so with this, there is a danger when it comes to being a teenager and deciding to change your sex, becoming a transgender. I'm not against people who change or who are transgender, but that sometimes without insight or without much self study or self assurance of being truly wanting to change someone's sex, then you would meet people who have changed their gender or their sex, but then regretted it because they figured out that is what it was simply an emotional phase for them. And so this the thing is, it's really dangerous, for example, for a woman to change gender with as a teenager, because when you grow up, well, gender is fluid. And when you get your breasts removed or your uterus, or you take hormones that make you look more like a man, or and the same with those who with those who are born as male and then decide to become female as teenagers, it's really an irreversible thing. And so I think that in order to protect some teenagers from the irreversibility and impacts of changing one's sex, there has to be some guidelines and some protection or safeguards so that this sort of thing does not happen. Uh, it's not a popular opinion what I said, but I want to know what you think,
No.
Mixie.
Well, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you. When I was a teenager, I've always had a self-awareness about me. Um, Now, we've all been teenagers. You guys are still teenagers, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
If there is say my daughter felt like she was a guy, I'd be like, okay, first we'll go into therapy and we'll talk about exactly what makes you feel this way so you can discover it and you can start dressing like a man and presenting like a man, however you're comfortable. I mean, I would just, first of all, I've been talking to trans youth for a long time. I highly disagree. If you're a teenager, you know yourself just as much as you do in any stage of life. Yes, we have burgeoning hormones. We have emotional problems, but you always know if you're a man or a woman, whether you're born a man or a woman or not. You, I, I mean, obviously you question those things, you question your identity, but for a child, if one of my children said that they wanted to live as their opposite gender, I'd be totally fine with it. As long as they were doing everything, if you have I had emotional problems in school that were never fixed. If you don't help kids with their emotional problems and needs to discover who they really are, especially at a time when hormones and puberty are kicking in, then they're going to be lost. You have to be the guide. You have to let your kid. I let my daughter make all her own choices. She'll be 14 in 2 weeks. And I let her choose what's best for her. Like I suspect sometimes she has all this teenage emotion bullshit going on, and she doesn't want to talk to me because I'm her mom, But like today I drove her to her best friend's house, and sometimes I have these talks with her because I need to check in emotionally. That's my thing. I'm an empath. I'm like, look, if you ever need to go to therapy or talk about your issues with someone, let us know. You don't have to talk to me. I get it. I'm your mom. You don't necessarily want to talk to me, but I'm just making sure that you have people you can talk to, friends, teachers, support. And she was like, yeah, stop talking to me now. I'm like, all right, fine. As long as I get it out there and as long as she hears it. But when you were a teenager, did you feel like you were anything less than any identity different? Did you always feel like you were a guy when you were a teenager, Elmo?
Well, teenagers have different experiences, and well, for me, I'm not really a good example because I grew up in a Christian, being in a Christian church, and it was enforced towards us to be more manly, and so I've never really faced any challenge towards or any reflection on what my sex is. I just out of my own conviction of my beliefs, I thought that it would be simply a sin to think of any distortion of what a sex is.
Okay.
I
So
think I
with
can
that,
answer.
oh, I'm sorry, Eliza.
It's okay. I do actually have like this phase where I wanted to be a boy because because it was kind of weird because I was actually into anime, the boy to boy anime specifically. So it
Oh, who
actually
isn't? Grrr.
like I love
My
that.
13-year-old, she's the anime artist. That's all she wants to do is draw anime all day and Pokemon.
Yeah, just encourage her because
Oh, I
artists.
do. I buy her art supplies whenever she needs because she knows
Yeah.
who she is. And
Mhm.
I want to say with Elmo saying he never even explored his sexual identity because of the repressive household he grew up in. So what makes you an authority to speak for other teenagers? I think you're personifying your own things and saying it's a blanket statement for teenagers. Teenagers are confused. They don't know what their sex is. No, Elmo, you don't, if I may say. And I think you're
Probably,
taking your situation and putting it on to everyone else.
probably because of the
It's
household.
actually
Because
there are many cases of
here in the country, it's
there are
very
many cases of teenagers who,
Different in the Philippines?
yeah,
Yeah.
there are many cases of teenagers who got surgery and decided that they made a mistake. That's it. And I could cite some, but
I'm not saying that doesn't exist. But for someone who hasn't explored his own sexual identity because of your repressive upbringing, think about that. Would you want me, someone who is not Filipino, to tell you what the Filipino experience was like?
well, it's not that I
what I
am
mean?
excluded from any sexual exploration. It's just that it was plainly obvious. For example, when one watches pornography or explores it, it's obvious that I just want this. This is it, and I'm satisfied. And I didn't have to ask any questions or explore anything because that's it. And also the disgust for being the boy to boy. I don't know about you guys, but that makes me puke. I'm sorry. It's a personal.
That's because of your upbringing, your repressive Christian upbringing. I'm not trying to blame Christians here, but a lot of fans, I mean, I'm cool with Jesus. He said, stay groovy, drink wine. But a lot of his fans ruin the intent. If there actually is, because, I'm not going to get my atheist beliefs in here, but all religion is just text written by men trying to control people. So I don't do organized religion. I do my own spirituality.
Spiritual one. Yeah. It's more of a personal one.
Guys,
Exactly.
I also grew up
guys, can
in a
I stop you?
Christian- a Catholic.
Hello.
Sure.
I want to stop everyone because there's Zoom says that the remaining meeting time is 3 minutes. I think it have to upgrade to Pro, so it's a problem.
I have a pro Zoom. Do you want to go to my Zoom? I'll invite you both, or I'll invite Elmo
sure.
or
That's awesome.
all right.
Okay.
All right. All right. I'm
We're
gonna go.
getting
So I'm not trying to strong arm anyone and be adamant in my staunch beliefs, but and I am trying. What I am trying to do is challenge Elmo with his thinking, because I think everybody should be challenged with their thinking, including me. Everybody should, see what they believe in, and if something seems off, they should explore it. Why? What do other people think of this?
I have an criticism of the LGBT community when it comes to fashion and self-esteem, because I've seen that fashion is actually more important when it comes to sexuality than actually being sexually attracted to someone or to someone, or being romantically paired.
Do you mean in America or the
It's-
Philippines?
I think in the Philippines, because I don't think that fashion is more important here. Like, people try to empower it because it's an expression, but
Exactly. I dress like in my clothes because I'm showing people who I am, and that's, I think, what anybody does, gay or straight.
it's more empowering. Like, straight people can dress like gay if there's a thing like that, but it's not.
There should be no rules for clothes. Clothes should be genderless.
Yeah, but isn't it a little hypocritical, for example, when you say that there is no such thing as gender, it's so fluid, but then you use the binary system itself, which is this is what a woman wears, this is what a man wears, and you use that system.
I don't use that. I wear whatever I want. I don't care if it's under the men's or the women's section. I
Okay,
think
what
that's
about
arbitrary.
women
Total
who are
arbitrary. Gender is
women who are
arbitrary.
butch? Women who are butch.
We don't
or
use that
stunts.
anymore.
I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
I'm teasing you, Elmo. Look, there are old stereotypes. I grew up with a lot of stereotypes in the 90s. Butch dyke, bull dyke. That's how lesbians were, and now lesbians can be anyone. Lesbians in the 90s, you could, that was the joke. You could always tell a lesbian in the 90s, but no, that shouldn't be, even the 90s was very, because gay people even in New York, gay people were still hiding. My friends were coming out slowly. in their later teens and 20s, they were coming out. Because one of my friends, when we were 15, she came out as a lesbian, and her whole school ostracized the fuck out of her. Friends started turning on her, and I just didn't get it. But she knew who her real friends were, so that was a good point. And yeah, she liked her boots and man's shirts and man's shorts, but who gives a fuck about how you dress, you know?
I think the reason why they do that, like this kind of transition, is that it's one way to empower them. I mean, I know that we shouldn't be putting genders on clothes, on immaterial things. But then the reason why it's actually embedded on the clothes itself before we were even born, that these clothes were for women and men. So that the reason it's an actual movement that girls actually wear boys' shirts now, because no one can tell them what to wear or what not to wear. So it's actually a movement.
I love when boys wear skirts for women's rights. First of all, boys in skirts is just hot in general. Ever look at a Scottish guy in a kilt? I mean, I love when boys don't give a fuck, and men in general don't give a fuck about wearing purple or pink or wearing a girl, quote unquote, shirt, whether they're straight or otherwise. I guess in the Philippines, things might be different with fashion. Philippines has its own issues. I mean, I don't know how much this still persists, but I mean, isn't the Philippines known for little prostitute men? And
But yes, we have some of those as well.
yeah,
it's actually our tourism kind of thing.
It is. All right, because first of all, in the States, let's just say it, sex is taboo here. I don't know why we have like
It's still
extreme
taboo?
conservative fucktards here. And like
okay.
Europe probably laughs at us. They think we're so uptight. I'm a massage therapist, so I rub naked people for a living. But in America, sex work is illegal. So I can't make a living giving happy endings or something. And if that's part of your tourism there, I could always move to the Philippines if I wanted to make sex work my trade. But in America, sex work is illegal, unfortunately. And
It's actually tourism,
Well,
but it's
there's
illegal.
well, Mixie,
okay.
Mixie, that is actually a topic that Eliza would love to talk about, the sex work stuff.
Another
but,
time. Let's
we
stick
could
to
stick to the sexual. Okay. Yeah.
So Eliza was saying before, Philippines are more soft-spoken. Before you came in, Elmo, my Tia Luis actually lives near Manila with his wife Paula, and she is a very soft-spoken, adorable Filipino woman. And I think Eliza's right. So if I come off as American and bitchy and stuff,
That's
I
not a
apologize.
problem
I
here.
just like to.
That's not a
All
problem.
right. I like to have an open discourse and to challenge everything. I grew up with the phrase question everything. Even if I think I'm right, I'm going to question it. And I'm going to see someone else's point of view. So let's get back on track. Sorry.
Yeah,
I
then
talked too
Mixie,
much.
I wanna say this. There was a study just 2019. CBS did it. About 500,000 people who were in the LGBT community were engaged in a study wherein they scientifically proved that that being homosexual or being bisexual is not in the genes. It's not genetic. It's a mixture of nature and nurture. So some genes have a role in it.
Let's break this down for a second. Let's break this down for a second. CBS, you don't know what a big corporation, TV network, movie studio, whatever. You don't know who they're ultimately owned by. You don't know who they could donate money to. They could donate money to Trump for all you know. I don't know anything about CBS. So a big corporation did a scientific study. Who did they use? You can't just I think one of people's problems is they look at study as fact. You have to question the studies. You don't know everyone who was involved. Was it 500,000 LGBTQIA people? You know, who was doing the
Mhm.
tests? Was it bipartisan? You know, it was a corporation technically. Hold on, I'm being recorded. Sorry. Pokemon buddy just pulled up. Sorry. Um, you don't
It's
know
okay.
who are conducting these tests when there's money backing it like that. You know what I mean? So I don't trust studies unless I look into them myself. And personally, just from my experience from the LGBT community, I know. And what did your study say that it wasn't genetic?
There's no single gene or gay gene that it
I don't.
yeah.
All right, I don't. I think you're born that way for sure. I think it's something in your brain. I definitely think it's genetic because your brain is your cognitive functions in your brain tell you who you are. You know, my brain tells me I'm a weird Zen Muppet chick. Like I'm like Phoebe from Friends. I've never known myself not to be a weird, quirky dork, you know? And if you're gay, you know you're gay. You might not know it immediately, but once you realize what you are, you see all the past signs, gay or straight. You know, you have to constantly question these things. But I think
Yeah.
you're born with it. I think you're born being gay or
It's
straight.
it's actually a questionable study because there are also studies that actually show like gay people growing up in a very straight environment. So by that, so where are the influences that these studies are talking about, basically? And yeah, I do agree with a lot of research because I actually am for like research-based study, and you have to know the respondents, the demographic of all of those things, and yeah, Mixie was right when it comes to questioning those kinds of studies. Can I ask, Elmo, what other sources were cited also for that study?
Well, it's a 2019 issue of the Science magazine by geneticists
Mm-hmm.
from MIT, Harvard, and they
Rich white people who get in on their parents' money, or do they get in on their merits into MIT? You know, these rich white colleges, sorry, I don't mean to be like this.
It's
And
okay.
obviously, I have personal issues from
no
my
problem. You
growing up.
can
I'm a
Yeah, yeah.
Spanish Jew from New York and a woman. I have
Mm-hmm.
faced racism from my own people, which is
Mm-hmm.
weird, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So when a bunch of like college kids, I mean, are they geneticists at MIT who have been geneticists there forever? Or, I mean,
yeah, they've been
I would still question it. I don't care how prominent a school is. I want scientific research. I agree with Eliza, but
Mm-hmm.
do it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
bipartisanly, not because, you know, you have to get grants for research. And yes,
but
it's, it's scientific research can be questionable, but I believe deep down that all scientists are seeking the truth. And there could be
but
study
actually
on anything.
I think that it would actually help the LGBTQ movement if their sexuality was not based on genetics. Because, well, for example, what if some study in the future actually proved that 100% with no deniability that it was not genetic at all? Would that change your view of sexuality? I don't think so because it doesn't have to be
Well, why is this
born. You have
argument
to.
even valid? If you're gay, you're gay. If you're straight, you're straight. And you know what your sexuality is. Why does it matter if genetics is a factor in it or not? Why are people, especially religious, conservative, anti like homophobe people, trying to disprove gay? What we're not trying to prove straight, are we? Ask any straight person. Have you always been straight? When did you realize you were straight? And they'll say, I was born this way every fucking time. So think about it from that side too.
Okay. I would answer that with this. For example, if my sexuality was not a product of my genes, but it was a product of my environment, then my environment was the main factor to which I became gay. Then if I
Yeah, but your environment taught you to hate gay, and the even the thought of two guys together makes you puke. So how do you have a clear objective into the thoughts of that when you've been so skewed? And I'm not trying to be superior. I was just raised with very open parents because I am mixed race and mixed religion. So why the fuck would my parents care what my sexuality was? When I was 17, I told my mom I had a girlfriend for 3 days, and she just laughed at me like, all right, whatever, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree.
So your parents probably would have beat the shit out, your parents would have taken that a lot differently. It is environment. I do agree. Environment can help shape your sexuality, but inherently and innately, you know what you are regardless of environment.
Yeah.
I mean, do you agree, Eliza?
Yeah, I do agree because yes, nature. Can you repeat the study again? Like
Yeah, so
again,
it says that across cultures, 2% to 10% of people report having same-sex relations in the U.S. 1 to 2%. I'm reading it, but um,
no. Just
that
the
there is no
conclusion.
single gay gene, but there are genetic genes that 5 or more who sort of influence someone mixed with environmental or nature or nurture. Yeah, that's it, nurture. So it's both.
Okay, so basically the argument right there is that no, science can't really say that you're gay, but your environment does, which is like correct, but it isn't sufficient to say one is or not gay, basically.
Yeah, it could be
Because
everything is a factor in
Mhm.
why you are who you are.
I mean, it is necessary. Like I do get the point, but it can help
Exactly.
actually with arguments. But we also have to think about it that it's not the only factor that we're looking at if we want to say that you're gay or I'm gay, basically, because I don't have to know some science to know who I am, basically. I mean, innately. And it's more of like self discovery. You don't really have to be well versed in science or well versed with people to know who you are. Well, yes, you have to know. Well, you have to discover and explore, but it's more of a secondary thing. The primary thing here is that you get to say who you are, and that's your choice, that's your opinion. Yeah, I do agree with Mixie that whatever science can tell you, it shouldn't limit you from discovering yourself. But I also agree that that science does have a say, but it's not 100%, and it's up to you on how you'll take it. Yeah, that's my thing. That's my opinion.
No, I get it. That's a good, solid.
Yeah, because I actually came from a Catholic family as well, just like Elmo, and family
Yeah, my mom
Catholics
is
here.
Catholic.
Yeah, and Catholics here, basically in Philippines, they're more tolerant when it comes to gays, but acceptance, it's kind of a rare case. But I kind of get how Elmo sees sees the whole community, and what I'm getting is that he's new to it, basically, because he has so much
Yeah.
questions in it. And
Yeah,
it's
and I
okay.
think
That's
it's
fine.
great that you're
hmm
questioning. That's
Exactly.
fantastic because you
hmm
admit you come out of this terrible religious oppressiveness and you want to learn more.
hmm
My mom was
That's
Catholic. I
true.
think
And
I
he
went to
actually
church.
tapped the right person.
I'm not saying I'm an authority on anything. I'm just old and I'm going by the experiences
Mhm.
that I've grown up with.
You're not old, Mixie. You're beautiful.
Oh, thank you. No, old is a compliment. Old, great. I'm growing old gracefully,
Ah,
and the older you are, the wiser you get.
that means
I firmly
he has
believe
more
that.
wisdom.
I
hmm
was
hmm
20 years ago, I was the stupidest person you'd ever meet. Well, not stupidest, but
think it's normal.
I made bad
Because
decisions. Let's just say that.
Mhm.
But thank you.
But
I'm sorry.
I
I
also
I, I get instant humble. I'm like, no, I'm not an authority. But thank you. I really enjoy talking about this,
it's
and
okay.
I always want to speak up for gay rights.
Yeah, but I wanna ask Eliza. I want her to be specific on how she came out
Mhm.
as bisexual. Eliza, can you tell us the story?
Well, it's actually a funny story because I actually do agree that I have to admit that Catholicism and close-minded people are actually can be influencing. And back then, I didn't really have any knowledge of um, gay open rights, basically, and so I
Okay.
really didn't really like the feeling because it was new to me. Of course, it was new to me. I grew up in a Catholic background. My parents were devout Catholics, and my school was super devout to the extent that we're not allowed to wear this because it's against, like it's
Why would
against what
anyone?
Mama Mary would wear. Basically, that's the kind of mindset we have. But then I have friends who were closeted gays, and they would tell me their stories. They would tell me how they fell in love in Twitter, how they would play video games, and they would play as gay characters, and would read fanfics about them. And I actually got into it until I found out anime that actually was very open to gays, and it and to my surprise it had a lot of fans, people who were supporting this kind of act that I didn't really know that existed, or at least was accepted. Then I really liked looking at girls, but then I didn't think about them sexually. But then when there's this girl who I really liked, and she actually helped me out to come out by myself, but not to my parents, because actually I haven't come out to my parents because I told you my parents were devout Catholics, and it's gonna be hard for me to actually coming out to them at the moment. But going back, I was actually in denial of homos being existing, but with the right people, with the right environment, the right you can actually explore. You can go out of your comfort zone. And I am also happy that I am now more educated, more aware of everything. And I am actually an ally too. I also help the school, our university, when it comes to promoting safe spaces for everyone, every gender, every religion there is, ethnicity
That's
that's in
wonderful.
one school. Yeah, I would also like to promote that it's actually the environment that would actually help you get out of prejudice, because prejudice is very dangerous. It's very risky. And
Agreed.
coming out as bisexual to all of you, yeah, but coming out as bisexual to all of you, it's something I am proud of. Basically, I'm not really ashamed of it because it's normal. I don't find myself
Yes.
different. Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Look,
Mm.
I'm going to give you, by the way, Eliza, we should,
Mhm.
feel free to friend me after this. And if you ever need to talk and need any emotional support, especially
Mhm. Mhm.
whenever you decide to come out to certain people,
What about me,
I'm always here
Mixie?
if you ever need.
What
Of
if I
course, you,
decide
This
to?
Elmo.
is girls' power.
Elmo, when you decide to come out as bisexual, I will be there for you as well.
Well,
I don't
I don't
think
know
she
if that will
will.
come.
I'm just teasing. I any kind of emotional support you guys need,
Uh-huh.
please do not hesitate to write me at any time. Anything.
Mhm.
Anything. If you
Mhm.
need a hug
A
online, you
virtual
got
one.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am here for you. I am sorry. I'm
Mhm.
I'm a little bit like a mama bear. I need to
It's
protect the
okay. It's
young.
fine. It's normal. People,
Okay.
there's like a lot of people should be like you, especially in our case. But it's like,
Now, is your
uh,
university ethnically diverse? Very
yeah,
ethnically diverse?
because
That's awesome.
ethnic. Mhm. And it's actually a Catholic university, but there's a lot of different religions right there, and they're not really pushy, because it's a
Oh, good,
well liberated. Mm-hmm.
good.
Mhm.
I want to ask Eliza. Eliza, if you never met anime, would you be bisexual right now?
Yeah.
Oh God. Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to answer that
Okay,
too.
okay, that's just a question in my mind.
Because
Because
Well, look
because
at it. Think of it like this. Think about gay guys growing up in the 50s, 60s,
yeah,
70s,
there was
which
no anime.
they
But
had comic books. They grew up with muscular superheroes. Those weren't made for women. Let me tell you that. I mean, they
Mhm.
were made for guys, comic books.
Mhm.
And it wasn't because it might not have been, it might have suddenly, all right, I'm sorry. It may have very well been we want to sell comics to boys and we also want to sell homoerotic stuff to young gay boys.
Mhm.
Comic books have helped lots of gay friends of mine come out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Shows
Yeah.
you don't have to hide who you are and you could come out as the superhero you are. So
Because there's proper
anime,
representation. Yeah.
yes, and I bet anime inspired you more to come out and be who you are because anime is what you are too.
Yes. A bit of an imaginative side. But yeah. It's actually mhm.
I want to ask you guys a
Mhm.
question. It's I've been so curious because, for example, if you're a guy and you're interested in threesomes, but you're one guy and two women, would you be what would you be called?
Oh, I've never done a three-way. Like I almost was in a three-way with two other women, and then we all just backed out, like, nah, we don't want this. And then
Mhm.
I wouldn't care. I'm not into three-ways, but if I was gonna be someone who was into three-ways, I wouldn't care what type of people, three guys, three girls, I don't care. I mean, you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
but for example, if there were two guys and one girl in a three-way, what would both the guys be bisexual, or they're just interested?
No, they don't necessarily have to be. Lots of
Yeah.
straight guys are in.
It depends who you touch, basically.
Yeah,
For
lots
me.
of guys are in three ways, and they both guys could be straight. They might have their own rules, like don't cross the streams.
That's true.
Um,
That's true.
yeah, and there could be gay guys in a three. Well, I mean, I there also with porn, straight lots of straight guys are doing gay porn because that's where the money is. So
Exactly.
obviously, even straight guys are flexible. Yeah, I'll suck dick for money because yay, sex work. Which
That's
porn is legal, but other sex work isn't. I don't get that. Sorry, I went there
that's
again.
that's okay.
But are people who are interested in multiple or in more than two relationships part of the LGBTQ community?
Polygamy. Are you?
You go, Eliza. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm clarifying the question. Is it more like a polygamous relationship you're trying to? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For example, two guys, one girl, one guy, two girls. Yeah.
Okay. I think Mixie can speak first.
Sure.
Okay.
I was looking at a Pokemon. I'm sorry, guys. It's Go Fest today. And people do still play Pokemon. I'm surrounded by them. So you think any kind of three-way or orgy,
Yeah, any kind.
that is it always gay or straight? Or I'm sorry, can you repeat? I apologize.
Well, for example, just a man who is straight and has a lifelong relationship with two women. Would he be part of the LGBT community?
I don't. I mean, up until recently, my friend just broke up with a couple. She was in a relationship with a married couple, a man and a woman, or for fun, I'll call it a throuple. But I wouldn't. The guy was straight, and he was with two women. I would not consider him part of the LGBT community, but his wife and now their ex-girlfriend are both bisexual. I think you could be anything you want in a relationship. There are no rules. You make your relationship. This is what I mean by personal ethics and not moral universal morals. Like religion can tell you just a guy and a girl, blah, blah, blah. But no, I live with my ex-husband and we're best friends that raise our kids. And for some reason, he doesn't date, but I do. And like a lot of times at my house, it's me, my boyfriend, and my ex-husband all hanging out watching TV, you know, and that's my relationship.
Mhm.
I have a best friend who helps, you know, we raise our children, and, you know, sometimes there's a third when I'm dating, but there's no sex with me and my ex-husband. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you make
Mhm.
relationships what you want them to be. If you're a girl and you want to be in a relationship with two guys, it doesn't matter if they're straight or gay. If they're both willing and there's enthusiastic consent, what do the arbitrary classifications matter? We identify with labels how we want to be identified. I call myself a dork, a nerd, a witch, a goth, a punk, a healer. You know, these are some of my labels. But it doesn't matter because I'm Mixie. I'm just me, you know? And we should
Yeah. One last thing. We're gonna go over. We're already an hour, and I would like to ask
oh, sorry.
if you wanna if you guys wanna continue, because uh, would you guys want to continue?
Sure. My
Eliza,
Zoom is
Eliza,
limitless. Or I don't have to. It doesn't
Eliza.
matter. Liza.
I would, I would like to exit because I do have school tomorrow, so I need to prepare.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So one last question, and we can. This was an awesome experience talking to you, Mixie. One last question: how do you make a difference? Being someone who knows that the LGBT community should be supported and should be welcomed into society, what should one do to make a difference?
Well, me personally, I told you before, I'm going to volunteer. I'm volunteering with my town's mayor, who actually helped bring some LGBT legislate. The previous mayor apparently was blocking some LGBT legislation in my little dinky town outside of Philly, which is funny that there was such legislation. And then when this new mayor came in, she changed that. So my town has more LGBTQIA legislation. And I wrote her, I had one of her representatives call me and say, do you want to volunteer for the mayor of my town? You're a registered Democrat? What kind of things do you believe in? And I said, well, my biggest cause in life is LGBT rights. And she said, that's great. We want to focus on that. So hopefully in the next however much time, I'll get to be proactive with politics in my town, which is a very new outlet for me. My whole life, my thing has been emotional support. I believe in the Hebrew phrase Tikkun Olam, which means heal your part of the world. Being who I am, my personal healing is to give solace and support and listen to people and be there for people when they need to be heard. I give a lot of hugs. I once held someone for 2 hours who found out he got HIV from a blowjob, and I just held him for 2 hours in the middle of a club while he cried on me. Like, that's the kind of support I am, emotional support. I think that's very important. If you are the kind of person who gives emotional support and wants to spread that positive intent, I think you should do it in your area and your surrounding areas, because that kind of stuff travels. You be good to someone, do unto others like you want to be done unto you, right? Doesn't the Bible say that? I like that from the Bible
I
a
think
lot.
it's more of Confucius too.
Oh, okay. Whatever. See, someone said it. You know, I'm sure every religion has a similar credo. That's what Tikkun Olam is in Hebrew, you know?
Mhm.
So I prefer being active in rather than, some people just despair over the world. Yes, I'm scared for the world right now, especially the States. We're in almost civil fucking war with all this racism bullshit. But I'm going to stay and protect and heal. And I'm going to spread smiles and positivity everywhere I go. That's just how I do it. People may do other things, more volunteering for their causes. It's all about a group community effort to want to spread positivity, I think. That may sound dorky, sorry.
Yeah. So well, you said it, and that's it. We are thank you for coming. So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr. And thank you for listening in. And please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
It used to be hard to find the exact auto parts you needed, and that meant spending a lot of time at swap meets. It's a different game now when you can order exactly what you need from eBay Motors. They have 122 million parts, so you can always find the right fitment. Spend less time searching and more time building with the eBay Motors app, or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.